Hello, welcome back to another video here on my channel in what seems to be a completely unintentional series of projects for your workshop. Because in today's video I'm going to be trying to make some new tool holders for my tool wall, which is currently behind me. So this is how my tool wall looks at the minute. I have my files, rasps and chisels stored in this little holder that I built about 18 months ago. My planes are just resting on top of the workbench. My hammers are secured in place by screws. Don't really like the setup. I think it's a bad use of space at the minute. I think I can improve it. I want to make a holder for the sandpaper. We'll make a different chisel holder, something for the planes, and we'll come up with something for the hammers. I think once I can come up with a few different holders for the various items, it'd be a much better use of space and be much more user friendly. So moving over to the miter saw, most of the projects are going to be made out of this 15mm thick plywood. Everything I use today I'm going to use from offcuts and scraps that I just have lying about. So I cut everything down to the right size and width. And then using this piece of offcut I was able to make a stop block so that when I cut the shelves out for the sanding disc unit, all the shelves will then be the equal width. Which was 140 by 140mm if anyone's interested. So with all the shelf pieces cut out, I taped them together and then used this roll of tape just to draw around one of the corners. I cut the majority of the waste off on the bandsaw. And then using this disc sander, I sanded back to the line that I drew around the tape. Next I butted up the sides of the disc sander unit. And then having already pre-measured and marked where I wanted to cut the grooves that the shelves would go in, I just used a straight edge to join it all up. Then I cut the grooves out with my router. You could use a table saw to do this, but I know a lot of people that watch my videos don't have a table saw, so I thought I'd try this technique. It did work quite well. The most important thing was as I used a straight edge as the guide. So I had to measure how far away I needed the guide from the router bit to cut the groove, then checked it was square and repositioned it. Now the plywood shelves are 7mm thick and the straight cut bit in the router is only 6mm, so I had to come back with a rasp and just widen the shelf slightly. And then I could check the fit with this one shelf, working my way down through all the grooves. So to assemble it, I put in the two further outmost shelves and then slid the back panel into position. This way I could ensure everything was straight and flush. Checked it for square and then clamped it all up. I didn't secure it in place with any glue, I just used brad nails to secure the two side pieces in because I figured there'd be enough glue holding the shelves in that would keep the whole thing together. In this top bit I only put a big squirt of glue in. I didn't go all the way down because I'm going to slide the shelf in the back part, as you can see here, which will then spread the glue. A few taps of the mallet just to check it was secure and in position correctly, and I just worked my way along. Then after putting in the last but one shelf, when it comes to the two end shelves, I just squeezed the glue along the recess that was cut out and then put the shelf into position. Flipped it over and fired in some more brad nails. and then set it aside to allow the glue to dry. So then I moved on with making the holders for the planes. I'm going to use this piece of plywood for the back piece and then box it in with another piece of plywood. So then I drew around the piece of plywood I want to box it in with, connected the lines, and then took it over to the bandsaw and cut it out on there, away from the lines that I had drawn. I can then use this as a template to cut out the other pieces that I require. Cleaned it up on the belt sander. This gives a much better finish. And then I butted this piece of scrap up to the back of the plane and drew around it. I cut this out on the bandsaw also. This action is actually speeded up, I'm not this good a user of the bandsaw. Then I just glued it in position flush with the base. Flipped it over and fired a couple of brads in. I did the same to secure the side pieces. Then I added this little top piece to keep everything into position. I then added this little tab which will help keep the plane in position when I've got it screwed to the tool wall. I just fixed the tab in with a squirt of glue and a couple of brads. Then I could secure it with the other plane holders I made onto the tool wall. I think you'll agree this is a much neater and tidier setup and a better way to store them, and there's less chance of them getting damaged. And in the time it took to make the plane holders, the sanding disc unit, the glue had dried on it, so I could now load it up with the sanding discs. Now if I'm completely honest, I actually designed the sandpaper discs to be stood up. However, I thought I'd try it this way, and at the minute I'm not too sure which way I want it, so I'm not going to fix that at the minute, but I do actually quite like it this way round. So then I moved on to making a chisel holder. I had this bit of pine lying around and I just ripped it down the middle on the bandsaw. Marked out where I wanted to drill some holes, and then over on a drill press using a 35mm forcing bit I drilled out 4 holes about a third of the way through the pine. The problem is, as you can see here, my forcing bit is rather blunt, so there was a bit of cleanup work that I had to do after. And obviously creating all this smoke in such a small workshop isn't the best of ideas. Then on the second piece I marked up that I wanted to use a 15mm, a 20mm, 25mm and 35mm forcing bit, and the positions to drill them, and they shouldn't go past this straight line here. So again, back over to the drill press to drill those remaining holes out. I put the vacuum hose alongside the forcing bits just to stop all the dust going everywhere. And then once I'd finished on the drill press, I just went over the edges with a chamfer bit, just to tidy them up and make them look less square. To secure the bottom piece in and the top piece again, it was just a bit of glue on the back and brad nails from behind. Obviously there's stronger methods, but for what I want this is perfect. So after wiping all the glue off, I could work out the height of the second shelf. You really need to put your chisel in and see what you can get away with. So first attempt it was too low. This one looks quite alright, but I just wanted to move it down a little bit to hold the chisels a bit better. So I secured that into place on the tool wall. And loaded it up with the chisels, and I was quite pleased with that. That was a nice little holder. I went with this design of plane holder because I don't have a lot of room above them. The type of plane holders where you have to slide the plane out to the top wouldn't be any good for me. This was actually a lot more work than I thought it would be to make all these small little bits. So I'm going to leave the video here. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you again next week.